Hello, everybody. Happy Tuesday to everyone. Boy, I can listen to that song over and over and over, whether it's the Earth, Wind, and Fire version, whether it's my friends, the Russian band, Leonid and Friends version. That is just top of my list. So just had to get that out there. Hope everyone is doing well today. Market kind of sitting here right around the flat line all day, and there's a lot more tariff news today. President Trump just spoke live for the last 45 minutes or so. Not sure what to, really buy into, pushing July 9th out to August 1st. Who knows? But what I do know, one thing is clear, is that this news flow, the tariff situation is not finished. It's going to be fluid. It's going to be constant news. But for now, the market is certainly shaking everything off again, really near the flat line. VIX is down 5%. So not a lot of concern or worry out there. Before we get going here, our video personnel, the gentleman behind all of Market Minds going here and getting the wheel going and everything, Michael Clark, shout out to you. It is a happy birthday to you. So please, in honor of Mike's birthday, smash that like button, hit the subscribe, and let's get the show on the road. All right. What do we got today? We are going to go through an analysis of the big, beautiful bill. Going to try and break it down as much as possible. And this will be done, everyone. No politics involved. There is no side that I am presenting. All I'm doing is presenting the facts that are out there. So I know this may be a sensitive topic today. We are not going to get into politics. We are not going to say, oh, this is great, this sucks, whatever it might be. This is just the reality of what this bill will do. So some of you may be really happy, some of you may be not so happy, but only the facts, man. That's right, Thomas. That is right. All right, so we will keep this out of today's conversation. I know the information that I'm going to provide, it is not all inclusive, because that would probably take 2 or 3 hours to go through. But these are many of the highlights. Okay, these are the big changes, the headline changes, and I'm going to go through each one of these. Okay, the tax cuts from when President Trump was in office the first time, the 2017 tax cuts, those are now made permanent. Okay. There is talk of a Social Security bonus in this bill. We're going to talk about that. What the heck is the SALT deduction? We are going to talk about that. Okay. These two right here obviously have been hot buttons since the campaign. No tax on tips, no tax on overtime. What really came out of this big, beautiful bill in regards to those? And then how about something about auto loans? Okay, so those are some really major changes. Now, there are also changes, but cuts to these. And we're going to go through these as well. Okay, Medicaid, food stamps, clean energy tax credits, federal student loans. Okay, again, my list, my discussion today is probably, and in fact, I'm not even going to say probably, it is not inclusive of every part of this bill. Remember, that was like 900 pages, what everybody had to read through. But I am hitting, I think, the real important items that could affect you guys, could affect the markets. And Aladdin, so you just posted up here, you got an email from Social Security saying no tax on Social Security. Again, this is not political, everybody. That is really not true. It is really misquoting what is going on, but we're going to go through the real data from that. Okay. So this is something, and we can post up this presentation if you want. We can post up a link to it. So if you want to get this, all the data, have all the data after the fact, okay, you can have it. Okay, so what this screen shows is some of these really big changes that were made, current law, and then what got written into legislation. Okay, I'm not going to go through all of these individually here because we're going to do them on subsequent slides, but this is kind of a recap of all of these things here. I know that email went out to a large group of Social Security people. Give me 1 second here, guys, so I can get a link. Can I please get a bit.ly to this? Bear with me 1 second, guys. Where is my presentation? There it is, right there. Okay, I will post that up here shortly. What about the no tax on tips, Kevin? That was part of what we are going to discuss. Same with the no tax on overtime. It is part of what we are going to discuss. Okay? Okay, so first, let's go back and go through what some of the big highlights were back in 2017. Okay, so what happened back with the big tax cuts of 17? Lower federal income tax brackets, bigger standard deduction, higher gift and estate tax exemptions. Now, these were all set to go away 2025. Okay, these were all set to go 2025. Okay, that standard deduction is now higher by $750 for single filers, $1,500 for couples. The child tax credit, this is a big one. This is a real big one. Boosted up to $2,200. This next one for ultra, the super wealthy, this one is huge. This one is absolutely huge. So the inheritance and gift tax exemptions are permanently now increased to $15 million for individuals, $30 million for couples. And all of these are pinned to inflation. Okay, now let's talk about that Social Security bonus. Okay, and here, thank you, Danny, for that. Guys, here is a link to this presentation if you want to have it. Okay, so it is not eliminating tax on Social Security. Okay, but what this does do, it gives a temporary deduction that beneficiaries can claim to lower their federal income tax. Okay, now this is something good, which I didn't know when they were kind of haggling over this until I read what the final language was. The deduction applies to all of seniors' income, not just Social Security. And what it does not eliminate, it absolutely, you're welcome, Gene, does not eliminate tax on Social Security. What it does do is provide a temporary tax deduction of up to $6,000 for seniors 65 and older. Okay, now, it's not for everybody. It is not for everybody. That tax break is available to people who have adjusted gross incomes between 75 and 150 grand. Okay, and this one is not permanent. This one will expire at the end of 2028. Okay, now if both spouses are on Social Security, you can both take that deduction. You get up to 12 grand. Okay, Now, if you have a greater income than 150K per year, it doesn't mean you're left out in the dark, but the deduction kind of phases out for people who earn above those amounts. Okay. Now, I added this in there. I'm not sure I know of anybody that collects Social Security. Actually, no, that's, you know what? I take that back. I do know of situations, people under 65 that do collect Social Security. But if you are a recipient under 65 or you are above those income thresholds, no new tax deduction. Okay, no new tax deduction. So there may be more about this. Again, I'm hitting the headlines here, guys. Okay, so this is what the Social Security bonus is. And yes, it is a huge deal. It is a huge deal. Okay, next up, what is this salt and pepper deduction? What is SALT? SALT stands for state and local tax. Okay, now this one is not, I would say it's not equal for everybody in the country because there are a few states that have really, really high local taxes, specifically New York, New Jersey, and California. We're going to get into that in a moment. Okay, but what this, exactly, Jake, it helps expensive states. What this deduction, SALT, okay, what it is, it's a federal tax break that allows filers who itemize to deduct a portion of some of their state and local taxes from their taxable income. Okay, now, this is huge because right now, or before signing this in, that SALT cap was $10,000. That limit now has been increased to $40,000 for this year, $40,400 next year. Okay, so it's upping 1% per year until 2029. And then if this is not extended again, if laws don't change, this does go back to the $10,000 deduction in 2030. And there's no question that this deduction disproportionately benefits wealthy, upper middle class taxpayers, especially if you're living in an area with high state and property taxes like New York, New Jersey, and California. Okay. So this is a significant, considerable bump up in how much you are able to deduct. Okay. Now, again, this is there's all these caveats and restrictions on all of these. This is for people making less than $500,000 a year. Okay. I know President Trump just finished talking a few minutes ago and still talking about a lot of the tariff situation. It's a fluid discussion. He's going to be announcing tariffs on pharma and on commodities, I think, tomorrow. Okay, this one, man, we've heard about no tax on tips for basically, over a year now. It was a big part of President Trump's campaign. There's a lot of misinformation out there. Okay, here's the real skinny. For both the tax on tips and tax on overtime, these are what's known as above the line deductions, meaning they get subtracted from your gross income, not your net income. Okay. The limit on the deduction for tips is capped at 25 grand per year. Okay. This is significant. There's no question about it. This is significant. Okay. 25 grand per year. Now, overtime. Okay. The deduction for overtime is capped at $12,500. If you make more than $150,000, that cap of $12,500 gets reduced by $100 for each $1,000 of adjusted income. So if you look at the 12.5, if you make more than $275,000, there is no deduction for overtime pay. Okay? But nonetheless, listen, if you're working on tips and you happen to work overtime and you fall in, the range of those tax brackets, got a lot of good stuff going on there. Any questions so far? Any questions so far? Again, I'd love everybody to remember that the information I'm going through right now is really top line information. I'm not getting into the weeds of the 900-page bill that this was. I'm just trying to explain and spell out the topics, the hot buttons that we're hearing about in the media, seeing in the news every single day. Okay. Thank you, Steve. Okay. Now, this one was pretty, I had never even heard of this until this thing was passed. Okay. Car loan interest deduction. Okay. Now, if you're paying $10,000 a year in interest on a car, boy, I don't know what you're driving, but what this does is it temporarily lets car buyers write off up to $10,000 a year in interest paid on qualifying auto loans. This one also goes away after 2028. Okay. Now, there are some caveats. Car must be new, assembled in the United States. Okay. So if you're thinking about, I put some samples up here, some examples, Honda, Hyundai, Nissan, Toyota, may or may not be included here because some of those manufacturers have plants here. Some are overseas. Okay, the $10,000 deduction is eliminated if you make more than 100 grand or 200 grand for couples. Okay, so listen, if you can take advantage of it, it is another really good potential savings to your bottom line. Okay, now let's go into the other side here. Some of the big cuts. Okay, some of the big cuts. And before we do that, let's go to Thor in our word of the day, which is tax. And those of you that are in our first solar position, just keep a heads up here because stock is trading on its low of the day and hopefully we're close to getting filled. All right, let's leave this up here for another minute. Love it. Everybody get Thor. Okay, so let's talk about Medicaid. And again, this is not 100% complete everything that has to do with it. These are the major headlines. Okay. The CBO, which is the Congressional Budget Office, nonpartisan, they're estimating that roughly $1 trillion, $1 trillion in Medicaid cuts over the next decade are going to result in 12 million people losing coverage over the next decade. If you are receiving Medicaid, okay, you need to work a minimum of 80 hours a month. 80 hours a month as a minimum, unless medically exempt, in order to receive the benefit. In addition to Medicaid, there are also changes to the ACA, the Affordable Care Act. Those that have coverage from the ACA will no longer be able to automatically re-enroll. Okay, but they have to update their information annually. Now, is that a big deal? Is that a dollar, change? Is that a dollar difference? Not necessarily. But what it does is it makes it more difficult to re-up for people. And the CBO, again, is estimating that there will be a lot of people that drop out of the ACA. Thank you, Aladdin. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, SNAP. Okay, what is SNAP? SNAP is basically food stamps, if you think of it. Okay, Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. Okay, this is a tough one for a lot of people. It will impact the roughly 42 million Americans who actually are on this program. Okay, so currently, everyone except for parents with dependents must work until age 54 to qualify. Now, the bill raises that age to 64 for everyone except parents with children aged 7 years or younger. And millions are expected to lose their benefits, and many more are going to receive less than they do now. This is a significant cut. $292 per person, $975 for a family of 4. In addition, what was attached to the SNAP cutbacks was Planned Parenthood. Okay, again, no politics here, guys. We're all big people. Okay, we all may have different thoughts about this, but access to reproductive and sexual health has also really been diminished because the bill includes a provision to defund Planned Parenthood by making it ineligible for people on Medicaid. So some significant changes there. Okay, clean energy. Clean energy. This is a big one. This is a real big one. In fact, President Trump just got finished talking about this and how this was a scam. I'm not sure that I agree that this was a scam, the clean energy bill, but however you want to interpret it, okay, the big beautiful bill will reset the course for the U.S. energy sector. The reason why is because it is rapidly phasing out tax credits for wind, solar, electric cars, while at the same time, big oil likes this, they make it cheaper to drill and mine for fossil fuels on federal lands. Okay, now the loss of federal support, that is really projected to impact any further, I'll say R&D, any further build out of wind and solar. Because of that, that is expected to drive up energy costs for all of us by about $165 a year. It's according to Princeton. Okay, it's according to Princeton, not by me. Okay, the bill terminates several federal tax credits that support clean energy technologies, which, in addition to the wind and solar and all that, that includes credits for previously owned and new clean vehicles, so electric cars, qualified commercial clean vehicles, in alternative fuel refueling infrastructure. Okay, tax credits for energy efficient home improvements. Those will only be available to projects that are finished before the end of this year. Now, I know I personally had one of those improvements a few years ago, and it was fantastic. Was able to, get a tax credit for it. But unless that is done now by the end of this year, bye-bye. That's gone. Okay. And then independent analysis on this is not me. Between now and 2030, these cuts are expected to add another 7 billion tons of emissions to the atmosphere. Okay. So that is the clean energy part of this. Student loan impact, another big hot topic, another big hot button. Going back years, to President Biden and student loan forgiveness and all of that. Okay, there's going to be a rollback of student loan protections. This bill significantly changes or eliminates some of the existing income-driven repayment. That's known as IDR plans. And they're going to replace them with a number of new options. Okay, the student loan forgiveness that I just talked about will be very drastically reduced. Okay, in addition, yeah, you and me too. You and me both, Paul. Well, that would be fantastic, right? The proposed or this legislation cuts down on student loan forgiveness programs, and it makes it more difficult for but I always have a problem with this word, maybe because of my last name, borrowers, to have their debt canceled. There's now going to be a cap for graduate program borrowing. Okay, it will limit the amount of federal student loans that students can borrow for graduate studies. This next one's a big one. Tax on university endowments. Okay, to generate more revenue, the bill is going to expand the tax on university endowments. Okay, which may impact financial aid opportunities offered by universities. So basically, government's going to take more from these endowments that people are giving to these universities. So less money to offer out for financial aid. Okay, and a tax break for high income earners. The bill may extend, or actually is extending, a tax break which allows employees to repay student loans with pre-tax income. So that gross level, that top level that we talked about before. Okay, so I don't know, I have a blank screen there. Oh boy. Okay, before we go into our wheel of the day, guys, make sure you are all have tax in there if you want to be on the wheel, because that is going to close. I guess it is closed right now. I wanted to remind everybody here. Hang on. Oh, there we go. Wonderful. There it is up on the screen, everybody. Anybody that is interested in listening to Charlie Moon live tonight, Charlie Moon live, and talk about how he uses AI to help with some of his decision making, signals, why it is so incredibly successful. There is the link for tonight, everybody. Okay, it is posted up there. All you got to do is register on that link, and Charlie goes live at 7 p.m. Central Time tonight. All right, there's Thor again with tax, and we've got our wheel ready to go here. Whoa, this wheel is packed today. Ooh, can't even read the names. Getting small here. Let me go back and see who the winner was yesterday. Kevin 9319 was the winner yesterday. All right, everybody. Are we ready? Let's do it. Robert DB, Robert Petrich, or Rocky Mountain? Rocky Mountain. Are you in the house? Are you in the house? Beautiful. Beautiful. All right. You know what to do. We'll post it up here. Shoot me an email at prosperswag@prospertrading.com. Swag size, address. How would I have voted on the BBB? Well, yes, it expands our debt significantly. Significantly. There are some things in there I like. There are some things in there I don't like. Dave, I think that is a very common thread that many of the changes here are good for high tax brackets. There's no question about that. You earn more money, you are going to benefit more from this than if you are in a lower tax bracket. I don't think that can be disputed. All right. Does anybody need the link again to this presentation so you can get all the overviews here, especially this page right here? I can put that back in here. We put it in earlier. Here is the link to that presentation again. Okay. All right, everybody. Again, I want to leave with this. This was not a political opinion. This was not an op-ed. This was not me saying, oh boy, this is great. This is terrible. What are these folks doing? What are these folks doing? This was me just presenting a lot of the highlights of the BBB. Okay. All right. Everybody, thank you very, very much. I hope this was useful and enlightening for everybody. The market is still squarely unchanged, right around the flat line right now. And we will see everybody tomorrow.